What is going on, Internet? Another video coming at you from the Washington Football Report. This is JD. Let's dive into this. Before I dive into this, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. My goal is to hit 500 subscribers for the draft, and then we'll go from there. Also, follow me on Twitter and Cited Washington WTF Report on both of those. So, this video will be a conversation about what receivers are available in free agency. Now, some receivers have already been taken off the market. We've had, like, for example, the one I really wanted this year was Allen Robinson. He's off the market right now. So that's the big name that everyone was talking about. So we have to look at somewhere elsewhere. Now, the thing is, there's a handful of guys out there we can get. I only think we're going to get one in free agency, and we'll get others in the draft. And the reason I think that is, one, I think we want to allocate money elsewhere. We do want to spend some money on the receiving core aspect, but we also have some guys that are unproven on our team, and we don't want to load up with guys that are just going to pretty much get them all shipped out, basically, is the best way to put it. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into the options we have at receiver, and then I'll tell you what I think Washington will do. So I think Washington has the option. They can draft They can sign a big target free agent that's good catchability, things like that, and then go for speed in the draft. Ron said he wants a speedy receiver. Well, we can assign a speedy receiver and then go for size in the draft. This is a very loaded draft class with a lot of fast receivers. So, it's loaded all around with all-around receivers, but speed receivers are definitely something that's in the draft this year. So the first option they have is Kenny Galladay. Played for Detroit, very solid receiver. He's doesn't drop very many balls. He can get open, especially if he's playing with someone who's going to draw a lot of attention. Terry McLaurin will draw a lot of attention. I mean, he made Cam Sims look like a pretty decent number 2 this year. So playing with somebody like a Kenny Galladay, who's probably a legit number 2. I mean, 2.5 maybe. He might teeter on a 2 to the 3, but he's somewhere. He can play a 2 sometimes, and sometimes he's a 3. Depends on the day. But he's definitely a talented receiver, and would not look bad in the burgundy and gold. And alongside Terry McLaurin and then the rest of the receivers that we have on our roster. So he's more of a possession receiver. He's not exactly a speedster. So he's not a bad option. Next option is Juju SmithSchuster from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Juju SmithSchuster, I think, is a very talented receiver, but he has shown that he is not a number 1. He's not a number 1 receiver. And you want to argue that with me, that's fine. But he's not a number 1 receiver. And the reason why I say that is because when he was in Pittsburgh and he played with Antonio Brown, he got good numbers. He put up 1,000 yards receiving, things like that. The second they got rid of Antonio Brown and teams could key on him, he wasn't as productive. He was still productive, but wasn't as productive. So I think that it makes sense for him as a player to go somewhere where either they're going to have to play you honest and play the other player honest because they can't double team both of you, or somewhere where they might give more attention to someone else and you can just shine because you're getting mismatches all the time. And I think that's what Juju SmithSchuster does if you bring him in on the Washington. I think that's the route you go with him. I think that's what he does, and I think that's actually a really good fit for us. But we'll go to the next one, Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel is the speed guy that Washington's looking for. He's fast. He can catch the ball. He can actually run the ball too on reverses. He's definitely got talent. There's definitely got abilities, but the question is, what kind of abilities does he have, and can he fit as a number 2? Is he strictly a slot receiver? Like, what can he do? And then what are we going to do in the draft to counter that? And we do have some guys on the roster that are big receivers, so maybe they're okay with that, and they just need speed because they're not confident in Steven Sims. So that's the question mark with him. Corey Davis is probably going to cost the least amount of money of all these guys. Corey Davis had his best year last year with the Titans, but before that, he was kind of having mediocre to average years. And I don't think the money that he's going to the big money, he's probably going to aim for that, and that's why he might go back to the Titans because they'll probably pay him more than anyone else just because they've had him. But I don't think that anyone else is going to be enamored with paying him, $12-15 million. But he probably would be the cheapest one of all these. I don't personally think Corey Davis is a good fit for Washington. But he's definitely one on the market, and it's one that Washington may go with if the other receivers are kind of snatched up. We might have no choice but to go with him. But I want to go over him just the same. And the last one that I think is these are the top 5 receiving options that we have is Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones is probably of the 5 we're talking about here, the most consistent. He's not the best by far. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is probably, when it comes to talent, is the most talented. But I think when it comes to overall, I think he is the overall best when it comes to combination of route running, speed, catchability, jump ball catchability, things like that. I think he is probably the best when it comes to all those things. So it really just depends on what Washington wants to do in the draft. And I think this is what I would do if I was Washington. I would sign Juju Smith-Schuster. I would sign him. Alongside McLaurin, him and McLaurin probably get 1,000 receiving yards each, easily. Whoever his quarterback is, I think it'd definitely happen. And I think in the draft, there's so many speedy guys in the draft. You got Amari Rodgers. You got guys that I can name guys you guys never even heard of. There's a kid from Houston. I can't think of his name right now. I have it in my notes. He's got like a 4.4 speed. He's very fast. He's actually a pretty good blocker for his size. That we could get out of Houston. He's a 4th round projection, maybe 5th. So and Amari Rodgers is projected to be a later round pick. So we can get the receiver option that we need now, the number 2 option that we need to alongside Terry McLaurin, and we can draft a speedy receiver later in the draft and fulfill that need as it comes, in the draft. I think that's the best option, because I think the first couple rounds we're going to deal with the linebacking core and our offensive line, and maybe quarterback. It depends on what we do with quarterback. But I think the best option for Washington is to go the route of going with Juju Smith-Schuster and then drafting like Amari Rodgers, or I can't think of his name right now. I can't think of his stupid name. I can't think of his name. He played for Houston. It's like Markel Jackson or something like that. I can't remember his name. I don't want to say the wrong name and whatever. But I watched his 40 time, and I watched a handful of things he's done. He's got some good speed, and I think he'd be very useful. And yeah, that's my wrap up when it comes to receiving. I know it's very quick. I gave kind of a little bit of a quick rundown. I'm just going off my experience watching them and what I know from watching them. And I think Juju was better when he played with another good receiver. He's not better. He wasn't better when he played with guys that were lesser than him. Whenever Pittsburgh got Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster ended up being a little bit better. Whenever Pittsburgh got Chase Claypool, he got a little bit better because the talent around him got elevated and they couldn't key on him. Whenever you can't key on him, he can thrive. The only issue I have with him is he drops the ball a little too much, but I think that's just like something was going on in Pittsburgh last year, and Ben has like some kind of bad chemistry issue with his quarterback, with his receivers, so I think that's part of it. But regardless of that, thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You get videos like this all the time, and hail to the Redskins. We got 5 days till free agency. I'm very excited about all this. I'm nervous about it too. God, I'm on like pins and needles waiting for all this stuff. But hail to the Redskins. See ya.